Every single girl between the ages of 18 and 32 knows me. No, not my name, but who I am. I'm the guy whose calls you don't answer, but who you'll call on a cold winter night when your battery runs out in a mall parking lot and you need help. I'm the guy you call to fix a leaking toilet on a Saturday afternoon before a party I wasn't invited to. I'm the guy you take to weddings and Christmas parties because I'm polite, I make a good impression, and your mothers and aunts all like me. I'm the guy who, after being asked out on a date, you say, "Call me on Saturday, let's see," because you're hoping something better will come along. I'm a good backup option because I always cry, I treat you well, but I don't pressure you for sex. I am a friend, not such a bad friend that I would lose my number, but not quite such a good friend that I would fight for it. I'm invisible. I was that guy all through school, a solid C student, a stable middle-class student, raised to be polite and kind to others. Never been on a sports team, always worked after school because my parents made too much to get government assistance, but not enough to own anything other than Kmart jeans and budget eyeglass frames. I was the good guy who opened doors for you and your girlfriends and let you pass ahead in the lunch line, acts you didn't even notice. You know what they say about where the good guys end up? Popular legend says last. But that's not true. We good guys don't always finish last. We just never get noticed, and no one knows if we finished first or at all. Too rich to get financial aid, but not smart or athletic enough for a scholarship. I went to community college while working. I gradually moved up the ranks at work, gaining enough responsibility to get the job done, but not getting recognition as promotions went to the louder, noticeable guys. Like most of my invisible peers, I moved out at 18, bought a house that needed renovation, and spent most of my time learning about crooked floors, crown molding, tile, and the like. Was my life lonely? I don't know because she has always been like this. I adopted a dog from a local shelter, an old Doberman with one ear that was not standing. Then a few months later, a local mongrel from the street joined us. Everyone knows that no matter how little money or things you have, having a dog makes you rich. When a stray cat moved into my house, I realized that I was definitely rich now. And suddenly something very strange happened. After my 32nd birthday, girls started returning my calls. Not only did I get dates, but I also stayed overnight. Was I happy? Which bear is Catholic? Yes, I was so happy, but also confused. The reason for my sudden studenthood was explained to me by Joanna, a retired school teacher who worked in the store where I bought coffee every morning. Joanna was a big, gruff, smoking lady who didn't care about other people's opinions. Joanna could joke with all kinds of customers, from construction workers to truck drivers, and had a loyal following in the store. She worked mainly to keep herself busy after the death of her longtime partner. "Eric, my boy, you are known as the clock stopper," Joanna told me. I was puzzled. "I heard that you can be so ugly that your face will stop a clock. Is that what you mean?" Joanna exhaled a stream of smoke before continuing. "No, I'm talking about the biological clock of young women." Joanna looked at her cigarette for a second before continuing. "Virtually every woman knows that her biological window for having children becomes very dangerous after age 35. I interrupted. "Joanna, that's not entirely true these days." She waved her hand to clear the smoke and dismiss my objection. "Yes, yes, yes, Eric. The odds are better today than they were in my day, but the odds are still not in your favor after 35. So these girls wake up one day and realize that they are no longer 22, but 32. Having a baby takes a year, so they need to be pregnant by 34 if they only want one child. Considering courtship, finances, and most importantly finding the right guy, they are already late. So bam, you, my friend Eric, become a clock stopper." I shook my head. There are a lot of single guys out there who are much better than me as donor husbands for conception. Joanna laughed, blowing out another stream of smoke. "Sure, there are lots and lots of failed donors, but few good candidates for husbands. Women don't want mama's boys who live in their parents' basements or man-children who play video games but won't help change diapers. These girls are quick to size up what's available and discover that most good candidates either love men or are already married. Joanna paused. Eric, you see, we now know the best age to get married. Getting married at 28, 32 years old, there is little risk of divorce. Not too young and not too old. The Goldilocks theory of marriage. Smart girls got rid of the bad guys and losers and got the good ones. Nice men like you, it's too early. They now have a house, a car, 2.5 children, and a career. I laughed. So basically what you're saying is that at this point in time, after we've eliminated homosexuals and married men, I'm the worst one left. Joanna grinned. When you're young, most of your life is linear. You finish school, then college, then get a job. But real relationships don't progress that smoothly. So how do you plan for something like marriage and a life partner, which isn't so easy, like investing in a 401 or buying health insurance? Joanna shook off the ashes. Smart women know that if they want to be in a relationship, they do what it takes. They get rid of the losers and look for good, stable guys. They get out of the nightclubs, get off the couch, and go to their cousin's friend's birthday party, because that's there you'll find the real men, not boys. I shook my head. You can't plan your life in advance as if it were a timetable waiting for you to fill in data points, especially when those life events depend on other people. You might decide to move somewhere by a certain age, of course, or save a certain amount of money to buy a house or a car in months or years, but that's it. Joanna rolled her eyes. You can decide in advance exactly when you will get married, have a baby, or earn a certain amount of money. Of course, other people or factors are involved in this. Potential partners, fluctuations in utilities, employers, and the economy as a whole. I have no new research to back this up, but in my experience, not as a sociologist or economist, but as a woman with lived experience, the old adage is still true. Fortune favors the prepared, or woman, as in this case. She put the lighter away. Eric, you've become the target of targeted dating. I bet on first dates you're asked about your plans for the next 5 years or how many kids you want. I stared at Joanna. How do you know? Joanna chuckled. When her friends meet their children or freeze their eggs, the uncertainty becomes overwhelming. They may love their lives, but they imagined more. The family part of this dream for the future, which always seemed self-evident, now poses a big question. I remember this is from an article by Lisa Bonos from the Washington Post on this topic. I drank the rest of my coffee. So, am I in the driver's seat? Joanna nodded. Mostly yes, but don't drive off a cliff. Don't sleep with someone who's crazier than you. Look for a life partner, not just a bed partner. Find a stable woman, someone who will support you, who will be the mother of your children. Remember, beauty fades, but a good woman will always remain a good woman. As I walked to my car, I realized that Joanna had given me a lot to think about. I actually listened to her words and ruled out all but the most stable women who would be good partners in my life. When I finally found the perfect woman, it was someone that even my mother would love, a girl who... Of course, this is all nonsense. I chose my wife the same way men have chosen their partners since God gave us our equipment. I chose the girl with the biggest breasts who would agree to have sex with me. In my defense, she had a nice ass too. Her name was Kelly. Kelly's story. I looked at the chipped nail and cursed quietly as my mother passed me an aspirin to soothe my throbbing headache. Mom sighed, handing me a cup of coffee across the table. Kelly, what's all the drama about? We were in her little condominium. Mom and Dad separated after I went to college. The relationship had been tense for a few years before, but in my selfish senior year of high school, I just brushed it off. Mom bought this place with her share of the sale of our house. Dad didn't tell me why they separated, and Mom just said it wasn't all Dad's fault. I didn't delve deeper, but I knew Mom missed the big backyard and garden, even though the small condo had a larger pool. I took a sip of my coffee before answering. That freak Richard cheated on me. I caught him in bed with someone I thought was my best friend. Mom looked puzzled. Did he cheat on you again? I waved my hand at her. No, it was Kevin who cheated on me before. He's the new guy I've been dating for about a year. Wow, Mom said, leaning back. This is the fourth guy who has cheated on you. I shook my head. It seems like they all end up cheating on me, except Tony. Mom winced. Wasn't Tony married with kids? I drank more coffee. Yeah, but I didn't know it then. At least he didn't cheat on me with my best friend. Just with his wife. Mom reminded me. Why are all men such assholes? I asked. Relationships are so complicated. It's like a full-time job, and we have to treat it like a job. If your boyfriend wants to leave you, he should give you 2 weeks' notice. There should be severance pay, and before he leaves. Mom took a sip before answering. If you're giving your all and it's not enough, you're probably giving yourself to the wrong person. Mom, what are you talking about? Kelly, think for a second. What do all these men who cheat on you have in common? They're all cheating assholes. Mom made a face. And what else do they have in common? I just stared at her before she continued. Kelly, it's almost like you're picking guys who are going to fail. Rolling my eyes, I said, if I try to fail and succeed, what have I done? She took one of my hands. Kelly, you're a grown, mature woman in your 30s. You have a good job, and you have both brains and beauty. Maybe it's time to stop playing with these guys who are still living in their parents' basements and start dating real men. I pulled my hand back in irritation. What's wrong with the guys I date? Mom just looked at me. Okay, other than cheating. Mom rolled her eyes. What happened last winter when your battery died in a shopping mall parking lot and you called your boyfriend? He said he couldn't come because he was playing Call of Duty with friends. Making a face, Mom said, and who did you call? Papa. I replied, then quickly added, but Dad was on a business trip, so he called Eric. Mom leaned back. So Eric showed up in the middle of the night in the freezing cold to start your car. Meanwhile, your boyfriend sat inside, warm and dry, playing video games while his girlfriend was freezing in an empty parking lot late at night. I nodded. Did Eric also bring you a thermos of hot chocolate? Well, it was cold. I waited, I countered defensively. Also, I thanked Eric. He said it didn't matter. Mom nodded. And when your toilet broke and flooded the entire floor before the party, who did you call? It was Saturday, and the plumbers wanted a fortune to come out, so yeah, I called Eric. Because your boyfriend was? Mom asked. Okay, my boyfriend was too hungover from last night to answer his phone. Well, Mom said thoughtfully, at least Eric had a good time at the party. Oh wait, you didn't invite Eric to the party, did you? You sent the man who saved the day home, right? We already had too many people. I said, even for me this answer sounded unconvincing. Of course, Kelly, Mom said patronizingly. That doesn't mean I don't do nice things for Eric. I took him to my cousin Tina's wedding. Yes, Mom answered. At the last minute after you broke up with Tom or John or Kevin who left you for that waitress. Eric had a good time, I said weakly. He said he didn't have any plans anyway. Mom nodded. Yeah, on his unannounced day off, I'm sure Eric was thrilled to drive 2 hours to listen to your grandma and Aunt Edith talk into his ears and dance to a bad DJ with a bunch of people he didn't care about. Knew. Okay, Mom, I get it, but Eric is just Eric. You hardly notice him. He's just there, like a reliable cell phone or watch. Mom chuckled through her cup of coffee. Is this bad? Think for a second of all your male friends in the last 10 years. Can you imagine I had more authority than an opera convention? I've been out of the game for so long. I don't know if the rules are different at my age or if there are any rules at all, but the ladies here don't stand on ceremony and aren't shy about saying what they want. whether it's dinner, dancing, or physical intimacy. I pretended to be sick by inserting my finger into my mouth. Oh God, Dad, too much information. Dad hit me on the leg and laughed loudly. I know, honey, two things you never want to imagine are the sex lives of your parents and your children. He stood up to turn down the heat on the grill. My point is, Kelly, that the ladies here have taken advantage of what used to be a famous Roman expression, carpe diem, quam minimum credula postero, which means seize the day with as little faith in tomorrow as possible. I put the glass down. You know, Dad, you're right. He interrupted me. You know how much I like to hear that. I spanked him with a napkin. So will you call Eric? Dad asked, filling my glass. You mean now? Carpe diem, quam minimum credula postero, Dad repeated with an exaggerated gesture. I rolled my eyes, pulling out my phone and scrolling to Eric's number. I gave Dad a thumbs up when Eric answered the phone. Hey, Eric, it's Kelly again. Yes, I saw your name on the screen. Is everything okay? I've never received 2 calls from you in one day unless something happened. No, it's okay, Eric. Just wanted to let you know that we're open for the 3D movie on Sunday. I heard Eric laugh. It's 3D, silly, but we'll have to reschedule. Kim found out I had the 3D director's cut of Creature from the Black Lagoon and Godzilla vs. Bambi and begged me to watch it. Turns out Kim is a big fan of classic 3D. Dad saw my face change to one of disbelief as I pulled the phone away from my ear. The last thing I heard was Eric's voice. Sorry to interrupt, Kelly, but I need to let the dogs outside so they can pee. Call me next week and we can try to meet. It was nice talking, bye. The second time I looked at the screen that said call ended was after talking with Eric. I threw the phone on the table, muttering, well, that went well. If I expected sympathy from Dad, this did not happen. He laughed loudly and sat up, wiping tears from his eyes. Glad you're having so much fun, I blurted. The only movie that slut Kim likes is Pantsless Monster Dance. Dad stood up and kissed the top of my head. Sorry, honey, but I don't think I've ever seen you so openly rejected, and it looks like you're not used to it. Damn right. Dad moved his chair so he was sitting in front of me. If I didn't know Eric, I'd say he's getting a little revenge. What are you talking about? Dad leaned back in his chair. Remember when you were in high school and played the lead role in the school production of West Side Story? So what? Eric was on the stage crew, and I think he invited you to the after-show party. Maybe he invited me, I don't remember. Well, he remembered then. The poor guy showed up at the house with a dozen roses and his dad's old car. He must have polished that car 100 times, the reflection nearly blinded me. I bet those roses cost him a week's pay from his minimum wage. Oi. Oh, really? And where were you? You left with that fool who played the main role. What was his name? Tommy? I winced at the memory. Tommy got us that beer. I got so drunk. Guess who disabled Tommy's car at the party so he couldn't drive drunk and then drove you home that night? I put my head in my hands. Please don't tell me it was Eric. Dad nodded. Actually, that wasn't my best moment. Your mother and I thought Eric gave you that beer. I gave him a beating. Your mother threw his roses in the trash. Eric never denied anything, just stood there and took it all insults. Dad looked at the grill. I didn't find out the truth until you both finished school. Eric didn't tell anyone. It was just a coincidence that I found out. Oh, how I apologized to Eric then. You know what he said when I asked him why he didn't tell me what happened? What? Eric stood there with that stupid smile of his and said, no problem. Real men don't complain. Real men don't blame. I picked up the phone from the table. Maybe I should delete Eric's name from my contacts. If I were him, I wouldn't spit on me even if there was fire in my mouth. Dad shook his head. If it were anyone else, I would agree with you, but not Eric. Think about why he continued to help you all these years. I put the phone back in my bag. I don't know, but I'm not going to take any more risks. Eric won't be ready for what I throw at him. Dad raised his glass to me. Luck favors the prepared man, or woman, as in this case. Another week passed before I got on Eric's schedule. It was a Friday night car show, not an event I would have chosen. I mean, seriously, who wants to spend a summer evening wandering through a parking lot full of old junk cars? Was I surprised when Eric pulled up and walked me to his car? Eric, oh my God, is that Lincoln? Of course, Eric said proudly, patting his shiny wing. Lincoln Continental Mark Roman IV, this one was released in 1973. I felt excitement come over me. My grandfather, or Shin Ader, had the same car. Eric smiled widely as he opened the passenger door. What a coincidence, because this is your grandfather's car. I was stunned. He must be joking. No, seriously, is this really my Shin Ader's car? Certainly, Eric replied, holding my hand as I sat down in the lush front seat. Kelly, your grandfather always kept that car in perfect condition. After he died, it just sat covered in the garage forever. Your dad practically gave it to me. It took a while to replace all the dried-out seals and stuff, but everything is original and works, even the FM radio. As the familiar aroma of the cabin filled my nostrils, I took a deep breath as Eric walked around the car to get behind the wheel. I don't know if it was my imagination or what, but the bouquet of smells transported me back to the happiest days of my childhood. Just me and my Shin after going for ice cream, I felt Shin Ader's presence as if he were sitting next to me. Eric settled into the driver's seat. He had a cat that ate the canary look. Suddenly, he reached across from me from the driver's seat and opened the glove compartment. He pointed to the inside of the glove compartment door. There, in the childish scrawl of my young handwriting, was written in uncertain letters, Kelly plus Shin after forever, enclosed within a large heart. One thought flashed through my head. Eric was the man I was going to marry, have his children, and grow old with. I didn't care if I had to personally stab to death every woman who looked at him. The car show was a lot of fun. Although I only recognized a few of the cars from my teenage years, the atmosphere was great with a DJ playing old hits, kids trying to spin hula hoops, and food trucks everywhere. Eric's car got a lot of attention. Eric easily communicated with everyone, even the guys on their imported rice rockets who approached him with questions. The end of the car show night was the beginning of my campaign to get Eric to propose to me. It took about 9 months for him to ask for my hand. It would have taken less time if he hadn't had to spend months keeping other girls off his damn calendar. How did I convince Eric that I was the one for him? Easy. I showed him what great partners we are, our potential as parents, our common interests, that we are true soul mates, and, of course, this is all nonsense. I gave Eric what every man wants, food and sex. Eric, like most bachelors, limited himself to 4 main food groups: microwave meals, cereal boxes, pizza, and Chinese takeout. Although I was not a master in the kitchen, I could book a table at a restaurant using my phone, but I knew how to cook enough to fill Eric's stomach. Eric wasn't the worst lover I've ever had, but as expected of a guy who grew up on sex sites, a real woman needs more affection than his left hand. I once secretly looked at his browser history while he was in the shower. She showed the usual selection of sex sites and adult sites. Nothing too kinky. It took very little time, but soon Eric became the king of caresses, and I even began to look forward to our bedtime fun. We were having a great time working on starting our family, and I knew I had made the right choice in choosing the right man. Eric's story. Wow, is all I can say. I really enjoyed being married. Kelly was wonderful, even the cat loved her. We had the usual little disagreements, like my decor choices versus hers, but after seeing what she did to the house, I quickly sent my bachelor favors to the garage to make a traditional man cave. Sex? Well, Kelly taught me what a real woman wants, and it was better than any sex site dates. We both loved to laugh, and comedy clubs, concerts, and local theaters became our date nights. As everyone knows, when the gods want to make us cry, they first make us laugh, because everything was good until it got bad. We just left the doctor's office. After a year of unsuccessful attempts to have a child, we decided to get tested. I was fine in both quantity and quality. Unfortunately, the problem was on Kelly's side. I can't even pronounce half the medical terms, but basically I had a better chance of getting pregnant than Kelly. All modern methods involving Kelly had such a low chance that the probability was above zero, but not by much. Unless the three wise men come from the east with gifts, we will have to take the expensive route of surrogacy or adoption. I was happy with either option, both or neither, and I was ready to mortgage, sell everything I had, or borrow. Kelly was depressed and said she needed time. I think this was the beginning of the end. Kelly fell into despondency, which developed into deep depression. She even quit her job. It took a lot of effort between her parents and me to convince her to start therapy. We tried different medications, but the ones that helped caused her to gain weight, which depressed her even more. It was very difficult to convince Kelly to go somewhere. Every time she saw a child or a family, she almost burst into tears. I was desperate and didn't know how to help, and my sex life was back to zero. My attempts at humor backfired. After 2 years of this nightmare, I myself began to fall into depression, and then a miracle happened. Kelly's therapist found the right combination of medications, and combined with therapy sessions, Kelly slowly began to come out of her shell. Although it was great to have my wife around again, it was never the same. Kelly refused to discuss any options for our family, and I simply stopped bringing it up. It seemed like we no longer found common ground and simply coexisted together. Even when we were physically close, such as at breakfast, Kelly acted as if I wasn't there, scrolling through something on her smartphone or sorting through paperwork from her new job as an office manager. I felt invisible, as if she was looking right through me. The sex was mechanical. More passion came from my left hand. I thought it was just a reaction to the medications, and that Kelly would get back to normal over time. I just had to be patient. Kelly didn't want to go to comedy clubs anymore, but when she expressed interest in local theater, I bought season tickets. We went to every new show, and she went to several shows multiple times, taking her mother with her if I couldn't go. I thought I saw light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. Of course, fate decided that it was an oncoming train. Jean popped up from behind the cash register at the convenience store when I went to pay for my Monday morning coffee. "Eric, come with me now," Jana said, grabbing my hand and dragging me to the back exit. "Hey, Jana, I'm spilling my coffee," I exclaimed as her iron grip pulled me outside. Jana let go of her hand to light a cigarette and take a drag when the door closed behind us. "Eric, your wife is cheating on you." Jana spat, exhaling a stream of smoke through her nose. I waved away her smoke. "You're out of your mind," I replied as Jean took another drag. "You must have Kelly confused with someone else. I mean, you see 100 people a day." Jana put her hands on her hips. "I was at your damn wedding. I know what your wife looks like, and I know exactly what a cheating bitch looks like." Doubt began to creep into my mind. "Jana, this is a very serious accusation. Are you 110% sure?" Jana interrupted me. "I'd like to be wrong, but Kelly was here yesterday with that asshole from the theater, and Tommy, what's his name?" My legs were giving way. Maybe they were just, well, hanging out. Kelly goes to play a lot. Jean shook her head. "This idiot almost had sex with her at the donut stand. They were laughing and making jokes about sex. Tommy said he was glad he didn't need to use condoms with her." "Nonsense," I spat, knowing that Kelly really didn't want to be involved in the behind-the-scenes action. "You mean they just said that shit right in front of you?" She shrugged. "You'd be surprised what people say. We are simply invisible to them, like gas stations and coffee machines." My head was spinning. Yesterday, I had been at her father's apartment all day installing an electric water heater for him. Is it possible? No, Joanne, you must be mistaken. Kelly is like a lot of people. Joanna threw down her cigarette and crushed the butt under the heel of her shoe. Oh yes, Eric. How many women are like Kelly and let their lover drive a classic 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark Roman 4? What? History Kelly. What? Mom cried, slamming her cup of coffee. It's not a big deal, Mom. I mean, Eric doesn't know. I said. Besides, if Eric really got to know Tommy, he would really like him. They are very similar. My mother shook her head. Do you really think Eric has less moral sense than God gave the lint? They look alike. My lord, child, are you crazy? Does Eric also sleep with married women? No, Mom, but my marriage was in a bad place. Kelly, infidelity does not improve bad marriages. It makes the marriage worse, much worse, just as the divorce ends worse. But Mom, I'm not ending my marriage. I just wasn't getting much out of it right now. Mom moved the cup of coffee. If you haven't ended your marriage, then your actions tell me that things aren't that bad. You get something out of the arrangement. I've been through a lot. Why don't I have the right to something? Kelly, cheating is a crappy set of rights-based decisions. Mom, you just don't understand. Mom stood up, walked around the table, and grabbed me by the shoulders with both hands. Darling, yes, I do, she said, squeezing my shoulders. I screwed up your dad once. Just a couple of stupid dates with, well, whoever. Mom sat up and wiped the tears from her eyes. You were in high school. For some reason, I thought a little fling couldn't hurt. Your father found out about this and left me. I convinced your father to stay until you finish your studies. I figured in 2 years I could get it back. Did you cheat on Pate? I said, shrinking away from her. Mom tensed. Yes, and just as you got to college, your father moved out and filed for divorce. Now I'm tense. This won't happen to me and Eric. He will never know, so I will never hurt him, even unintentionally, unlike what you did to your father. Mom shook her head. Hurt him unintentionally. Deception is as deliberate an intention as a NATO airstrike. I got up to leave. Tommy works with me. Eric never comes to my work, so how will he know? I mentally cursed myself for letting Tommy talk me into taking the Lincoln for a ride yesterday. I vowed that this mistake would not be repeated, even though I felt the thrill of what we were doing in the back seat of the car like a couple of horny teenagers. Mom continued to shake her head. A friend at work? How cliché is this? I took my purse. I don't know, Mom, how cliché was your friend. Mom acted as if I had slapped her. Look, Mom, that's not what I meant. For Tommy, this is just a part-time job. He is an actor. Tommy has already acted in a real estate commercial and has a script for a play. We're both just creating memories that are worth watching. Go back to the future. That's all, nothing more. Mom hugged her small apartment as I walked to the door. Look around you, Kelly, because when Eric finds out, your future will be sitting in a small apartment with a bottle of wine. I don't know if I was more shocked or angry when I left my mother's apartment. Shocked is an understatement to describe my feelings when she found out that she cheated on her dad. It was betrayal, plain and simple, and I was very angry that she had hurt my dad. I was also angry that my mom never took my side in any relationship problems I had. Who is she to judge? My little fling was different from the way she had sex with Dad. I remember reading a survey by Illicit Encounters, a British extramarital dating site. They surveyed 2,000 participants and found that 73% of the women who admitted to having affairs had mothers who also had affairs. This is partly her fault. Besides, my mother kept talking about Eric and pushing me towards him. And yet there was a voice in my mind that I couldn't tear myself away from, whispering, "The wrong apple doesn't fall far from the wrong tree." I turned on the radio to drown out the voice and reminded myself that Eric would never find out, so no harm, no foul. Eric's story. I recovered from what Joanne said and headed home, all thoughts of work gone. Running straight to the garage, I took a deep breath and opened the front door of the Lincoln. Poking my head in, I immediately noticed that the driver's seat was not in its usual place. The seat was moved back to accommodate a driver with much longer legs than me. Even without that clue, I knew that what Joanna told me about Kelly having sex with another guy was true. It smelled like sex inside. As I was about to close the door, something caught my attention. Sticking out from under one of the back seat cushions was a cheap red knockoff Bic lighter. Neither Kelly nor I smoke. I pulled the lighter out from under my pillow, closed the car door, and sat down on the garage floor, leaning my back against the front fender. I hadn't cried since my parents died, but now I cried like a child. I spend the next few days avoiding Kelly while I recover. It was easy because now we coexisted anyway. There will be no consultations, drawn-out dramas, cameras, hidden recording devices, detectives, and the like. From my point of view, it would be like robbing an orchestra member quickly and cleanly. He took out the trash without looking back. Joanna let me borrow her truck and trailer. On Friday, after Kelly left for work, I put all of her things into boxes and bags and put them in storage. I had already canceled the accounts, separated the finances, so I headed to her work to end my marriage. It was late evening when I walked into the waiting room at Kelly's work. There was some drama as the security guards tried to escort some guy out of the lobby. "You bitch Tallin," shouted a man holding a large box, accompanied by two guards. "Fire me, bitch," he shook off the hand of one of the guards. "Come on," one of the guards pleaded. "Metro police are on their way. You must leave the premises before they get here, otherwise you will be thrown in jail." "Fuck you," the man shouted, kicking down the front door. "Whatever you assholes will pay. I don't care how many lawyers you have." I took advantage of the fact that everyone was focused on the spectacle and slipped past the reception desk. I didn't want to do it in the hallway. Halfway down the corridor, I stopped an elderly man in a janitor's uniform who was talking on Bluetooth in a foreign language. "Excuse me, sir, could you tell me where Kelly, the office manager, is located?" I asked. Before he could answer, a woman in a business suit walked past. She looked at my jeans and work shirt with contempt and turned to the janitor. "This is America. We would love it if you spoke English or went back to your country." The old man was not at a loss. "I speak the Apache language, and it is America's mother tongue. So listen, you squeezed immigrants, why don't you go back to your own country if you can't speak the language?" Turning to me, he continued, "Kelly's office is on the second floor, just off the balcony, about the fourth door from the CO's office." "Thank you," I said, turning and walking up the stairs, leaving the woman with her mouth open. The door to Kelly's office was closed, but I entered without knocking. What could she do? Cheat on me? Surprise, surprise, Tommy was in the office, sitting on the corner of her desk, leaning forward. Kelly was in her chair, so close that their noses were almost touching. Her blouse had too many buttons undone, exposing her breasts. You'd think Tommy would have Kelly pinned down on the table by now. Tommy stood up and Kelly leaned back, hastily buttoning the top button. "Eric," Kelly said, clearly embarrassed. "What a surprise. Oh, you remember Tommy from school, right?" Tommy waved his hand halfway. "Tommy?" "Yes," I asked. "You were in West Side Story, right?" Tommy perked up. "Do you remember my performance? I was something then." "Not really." I shrugged. "I just remember that you couldn't drink beer." Tommy got a shocked look. Kelly intervened. "Tommy works here, in the post office." Tommy waved his hand. "This is a temporary job. I've been here for a couple of months. I'm an actor. I'm just waiting for feedback on a play I wrote. I also act on TV. You've probably seen me in real estate commercials." "No, I didn't see it," I answered. "About?" Tommy said, disappointed. "Kelly said that you and she have season tickets to the theater where I perform. You probably really love my work." I nodded at Kelly. "Well, Kelly is a big fan of grown men wearing makeup and playing pretend. Me, not so much." Tommy and Kelly exchanged glances before he spoke. "Well, Thanks for supporting the arts anyway. If you ever need anything, reach out. Really, Tommy, I said. I would ask you not to sleep with my wife, Kelly, but it's too late for that. Eric, Kelly blurted out, jumping up from her chair. I ignored her. Do you smoke, Tommy? I pointed to his fingers with nicotine stains. What? Tommy was confused. Yes, of course, he muttered, taking a crumpled pack of cigarettes from his front pocket. I threw his cheap red lighter on Kelly's desk. Here's one of your lighters. It must have fallen out when you had sex with Kelly in her grandfather's car on Sunday. Eric, Kelly screamed. Stop it now. Tommy's just a friend. I pulled out my smartphone. Stop it, Kelly. I have footage of you two having sex in Shenader's car from the security camera in the garage. I'm sure he would be proud to see his beloved car being used as a sex bed by his granddaughter to destroy her marriage. Glad I ordered the upholstery cover. In fact, the security cameras were still in a box on my workbench. I was too lazy to install them, but I figured Kelly wouldn't know that. Tommy and Kelly exchanged glances again. Kelly approached me, but I stopped her with my hand. Eric, you have to believe that I never meant to hurt you. I interrupted her. Your intentions don't matter. You knew full well that cheating would hurt me, so you kept it a secret. You didn't mean to hurt me. Well, you didn't try to keep me safe either. Tommy looked awkward. I better go. I turned to him. No need to leave, theater boy. I took the envelope out of the stack and threw it on the table. Kelly will need a place to stay for the night. Here is the key to the warehouse with her things and a receipt for 6 months of rent. Tommy scratched his head. No, dude, I kind of live in my mom's basement, so. Kelly looked stunned. Warehouse what? Wait, no, Eric. Wait, listen. Mistakes were made. Not by me, Kelly. Any mistakes I make now. You have credit cards and money. If you don't want to live with a theater boy in your mom's basement, just find yourself a place. I could tell Kelly was still in shock. Eric, this is not a reason to break up. There was no problem until you found out. Are you crazy, Kelly? You slept with him without a condom. You didn't think about my well-being. You were incredibly selfish. You put my health at risk. All because you wanted a little variety. You thought I wouldn't find out. And to you all this time, it seemed like a good exchange. I added one final note. It's a good thing you don't have kids, Kelly, so you don't ruin their home life. Kelly stuttered. You bastard. I had to have sex with someone else to infect you. I shook my head. Are you that stupid, Kelly? You think the theater boy only had sex with you? Tommy puffed out his chest and pointed his finger at me. I'm not the one who can't satisfy his wife. He looked at Kelly. What? I never said we were exclusive. Come on, Kelly, you saw the ladies coming backstage. Ladies? Kelly snorted. Fat housewives and old first wives. She threw a cheap lighter at Tommy. I turned to leave. Welcome to the First Wives Club, Kelly. You and the basement boy deserve each other. Since you work at a law firm, you might as well file for divorce. Kelly's face was almost red. Both of you are lousy assholes. I gave her the middle finger as I left the office. I was standing by the stairs on the second floor, trying to calm down, when I heard shots. I looked over the railing and saw a guy with a pump-action shotgun shooting at the ceiling. 2 guards lay on the ground next to him, their blood splattered across the marble floor. Among the screams, I heard him scream, I'm coming, bitch Tollin. I want to discuss your severance package now. Heads poked out of offices. The old janitor I was talking to was pushing a cart towards the stairs at breakneck speed, shouting, active shooter, everyone gets to a safe place, 5th floor now. The old man reached the top of the stairs just as the gunslinger began to climb the steps. The old man pushed the cart down. A pile of mops, buckets, and bottles of cleaning products hit the shooter square in the chest, knocking him to the ground. The old man looked at me and pointed to a large copy machine. Move it towards the stairs. We have to block it. I froze in place and the old man ran to the elevator, inserting the key from the ring into the keyhole. He ran past me. "Come on, dude, move. This disables the elevator, but we still need to block the stairs." My body refused to obey, and the old man, not paying attention to me, pulled the cord of the photocopier out of the socket and began to push it towards the stairs, not paying attention to the shots. Kelly, Tommy, and about 6 other women joined me, including the lady who chided the old man for speaking Apache. We stood with our eyes wide open, watching the scene as if it were a reality show. As the shots hit the photocopier, the old man yelled at the shooter, "Hey, you little idiot, are you shooting blanks? Looks like you need a bigger gun." This crazy bastard started throwing potted plants at the shooter. The old man looked at me and hissed, "I won't be able to hold him off for long. Move your ass and take these people to the women's restroom around the corner." I was still in a trance until Kelly pulled my hand. "Let's go, Eric." We were crowded into the women's room like a flock of sheep when the old man entered. He turned off the light, and my eyes gradually adjusted to the darkness. The old man pointed to 6 women. "You all get into the last stall, as far from the door as possible. Hide behind the toilet as far as possible." He turned to Tommy and me. "Move this sofa in front of the cubicle wall. This will help block any bullets. Hopefully we can wait here until the police arrive. We have to be quiet and hope he doesn't find us." He locked the door. "Has anyone seen that bastard gunslinger?" I raised my hand like I did in 3rd grade. "He was wearing what looked like a black lifeguard vest," I said. The old man nodded. "Body armor." He turned to the group of women huddled in the last booth. "You," he pointed at Kelly, "give me your bra, now." Tommy was still panicking. "Are you going to listen to this old pervert? We're all going to die, and this ancient pervert wants to look at your breasts." "Shut up, Tommy," I said, pointing to a tattoo on the inside of the old man's forearm that resembled the Budweiser beer logo with an eagle and a trident and an anchor. "This guy knows what he's doing." Kelly performed this feminine magic trick and pulled her bra out through her blouse sleeve. I noticed it was a plain, thick, white cotton granny bra when the old man tore the cups and wrapped one of them around his fist, then hit the mirror over the sink. He took out a long, jagged shard, wrapped the end of one of the cups, and handed it to me. "I'm betting our shooter has less expensive body armor. Ballistic protection dissipates the kinetic energy from a projectile, like a bullet, through a network of fibers like Kevlar, kind of like a fast-moving soccer ball hitting a goal net. It won't stop a knife or hit." "So what if he doesn't have cheap body armor?" Tommy shouted, almost in panic. "Quiet," the old man said, trying to hand Tommy a piece of mirror wrapped in his bra. "Then we aim for the face. There are enough of us here that if we all attack at once, we'll have a chance." "The fuck with it," Tommy said, dodging a sharp piece of glass. "I'm not going to sacrifice myself for a bunch of selfish bitches. These women wanted equal rights. Let them fight." He began to squeeze into the small crowd crowded into the last booth. The old man grabbed Tommy by the hair at the back of his head and pulled him back. Tommy turned around, waving his arms. The old man hit him under the kneecap, and Tommy fell to the floor. Still holding Tommy by the hair, the old man bent down and brought the sharp edge of the mirror to Tommy's throat. "Do you want to die on your knees rather than fight on your feet like a man? It's your choice, but you won't hide behind your skirts to save your skin. I'll cut your throat right now." Tommy huddled in the far corner as soon as the old man let go of his hair. The old man turned to me. "What about you? Will you fight or run away?" I was so scared that my teeth were chattering. "I think I'm going to wet myself, but I'll stay on my feet." A child's voice came from the crowd in the last booth. "Grandma, I'm afraid." A large, middle-aged woman squeezed out of the booth, addressing the child. "It's okay, honey. These men will protect us until the police arrive." She walked towards us, repeating the magic trick with her bra through her sleeve. "Give me one of these shards," she said. "That bastard will have to shoot all his bullets at me, and make sure I'm dead because he will not get my girl while I'm alive." The old man handed her a long, jagged shard, then turned to the door. "Look, this door won't hold up much longer. The shooter has a pump-action shotgun, and it appears to be a 12 gauge, which will easily break through the door. But the tiles on either side of the door should give us some protection from buckshot." He walked to the wall next to the door. "The door opens outwards, so even this cheap door would be hard to break down. I'm betting he'll shoot the lock and then open the door. Like most guys, he'll use his dominant hand to open the door, which is also his shooting hand." He imitated what was happening. For a moment, the gun will be in the other hand. This means that his firing hand will hold the door instead of the trigger. With the lights off, he will look into the darkness and see nothing. This is our chance. He turned to me. "You go high, I go low." He pointed to the woman. "You push on. Don't stop under any circumstances. Adrenaline will dull any pain. Don't worry about hitting me, because stitches are better than a coffin." At that moment, we heard another shot from a gun. "Come out, bitch Tollin. Bring your damn law book and your Ivy League degree." The old man pushed me towards the wall next to the door. He crouched down, and the woman was behind him on the other side of the door below the level of the tiles. I repeated his pose. My bladder is about to burst. The only light in the room came from under the door. 2 feet blocked out the light, then the door handle shook. "Are you there, bitch Tollin? Come out." There was the distinctive sound of a pump-action shotgun being reloaded, followed by a loud bang, and the doorknob disappeared. Shards of metal and wood hit the old man in the leg, and he was thrown back towards the woman. The door swung open. Just as the old man had predicted, the gun was clutched in the crook of the shooter's left arm, and his right hand was holding the door. Our eyes met, and I froze like a deer in front of a car's headlights. The shooter's right hand reached for the trigger. Although my brain was completely blocked, some instinctive feeling made my body act on its own. I picked up the jagged shard of the mirror, and the inner impulse to survive sent me forward to attack. My legs seemed to push me forward on their own, and I stabbed a piece of the mirror right into the shooter's face. He cried out in pain, instinctively letting go of the gun. The old man, although wounded, immediately fell on the shooter, snatching the gun from him and using it as a club. A woman with a fragment of a mirror at the ready jumped up and struck the shooter several times, trying to avoid hitting the old man. A crowd of women ran out of the booth and began rushing around the room, looking for a way out. Tommy, having forgotten about his cowardice, suddenly rushed at the shooter and grabbed his hands, not allowing him to get up. I didn't understand what was happening until I noticed that the shooter had stopped moving. The old man stood up, holding his leg. A woman with a child came up to me and helped me up. "You've done well," said the old man, breathing with difficulty. "You saved us all." Police arrived within minutes, arresting the shooter and beginning the evacuation. We walked out of the building, bathed in the light of sirens and surrounded by police officers. Kelly held my hand, trembling, but I pulled her away. Now is not the time for reconciliation. The old man was taken away in an ambulance, but he was still smiling and gave me a thumbs up. I stood in the crowd of employees, realizing that this night had changed me forever. Death and betrayal intertwine, revealing the true fragility of life. Kelly stood nearby, silently crying. Tommy looked scared and confused, not knowing what to say. But I knew our marriage was over. Life gave me a clear signal. It's time to move on. The next day, I filed for divorce. My lawyer prepared all the documents, and I signed them, feeling relieved. Life was starting over again, and now I was ready for any challenge it might throw at me. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.